All right, guys, I keep trying to record this and I keep rambling way too long, so I'm going to try to keep it a little bit more concise this time. All right. But basically, I came home from work and I was watching Archcast and I heard some stuff that I wanted to talk about a little bit. So we're going to jump into it here.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, that's the thing. And we attribute wisdom to them in a strange way. Like when a famous person says something, it suddenly has gravitas to it. And you have to then ask yourself, like, this has happened in sports too now, which is even more ridiculous. Like a professional basketball player involves themselves in politics whilst bending the knee to China. And you really have the urge to say, like, man, you put a ball in a hoop for a living, okay? That's impressive. I couldn't do that as well as you could, but that does not give you a license to comment on world politics.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what I wanted to talk about here, right? Because I hear this kind of sentiment a lot. It's not just from Arch and from Kyle. It's all over the internet, right? Because you do X thing or because you're X person, you can't comment on Y topic, right? But especially with something like politics, right? You should be able to comment on politics regardless of where you're from or what your background is. Now, Arch is specifically talking about LeBron James here. And it's really funny to, you know, poke fun at LeBron because he's an idiot and he says stupid shit all the time, right? And most of it's deliberately contradictory to other things that he's said in the past. So, making fun of him, it's totally understandable. And saying, like, dude, you put a ball in a hoop and you're an idiot. Like, this isn't your field. I get that. But if LeBron had come out and said, I love the NBA and I love my teammates and all my fans in China, but what the CCP is doing is wrong and it needs to be publicly denounced. Do you think Arch would stand here and say, "Aw, LeBron, you don't know anything about politics. You just put a ball in a hoop. Shut up." Right? No, I don't think that he would. I think that he would come out and say, that was ballsy. That took some stones to do that. Because, it would probably affect him and his, you know, team and his organization a lot financially. But because he came out on the other side of this issue and he said something that was stupid, that Arch knows is stupid, he is saying, nah, you have to sit down and shut up about politics because you're a basketball player. Now, he's not saying he should. He's saying that he wants to say that. But, like, the idea behind that sentiment is still principally incorrect or not sound, at least. And the problem is that, like, anyone can have a good political opinion. Anyone on earth can have a good political opinion. It doesn't matter your education level. I mean, even like some of the most highly educated people on the planet are idiots when it comes to politics. Like, has anyone listened to Vosh talk? Right? I mean, it's insane. And he's supposed to be university educated. It's just ridiculous. But like, just any rando can have a true political opinion that's worth considering, and you should consider it. And when someone's wrong, you shouldn't say, "Oh, you're X thing, your opinion doesn't count." You should explain, "Listen, that's stupid because of X reason." Right? And I think that's important. I think that that's a thing that we're losing as a society, that we're failing to communicate these ideas properly to each other because politics is getting so emotional and so disconnected from logical argumentation. I think that we need to start trying to reclaim that so we can start rebuilding back onto a more functional and principled basis for our political decisions. Because the more emotional and the less cohesive we get, the less we will be able to accomplish politically, and the worse things are going to get between all systems.
Yes. It's like, yes, because I can play with balls really well, means that my opinion is now infinitely superior to anyone else. Because
Okay, and so Kyle says this here, right? And I don't know anyone that actually holds this opinion, right? Except for university educated experts, quote unquote, in their field who say things that are wrong about the thing they're supposed to be experts in, right? They'll come out and say, "Oh, I'm an expert in this thing, so you have to listen to me," even when they're wrong, right? Like Anthony Fauci, all of this last year, has been coming out and saying just things that are scientifically untrue, but because he's a doctor, you're not allowed to question it, right? And so when Kyle says this, right, he's speaking as if he's in this position, but I don't think LeBron has ever said, "I my opinion is worth more than yours because of my following and my celebrity status. I think that people attribute more to his opinion because of his celebrity status, and I think that is the fault mostly of the media, right? Because they give this massive platform to every time he says something, they have to report on it like it's newsworthy. It's not, and it's kind of dumb that that happens. But I don't know that it's fair to claim that that's anyone's real position. And I don't think it's fair to dismiss it because even if that was the position that they held, my opinion is superior to yours because I am a celebrity, right? Even if that's their position, right? It's still worth explaining why that doesn't matter, right? It's still worth having the argument about why that's functionally wrong. It's not, you shouldn't just dismiss it as being dumb. You should still argue with it, even though it is dumb on its face. I think that we are too complacent to just say that's obviously stupid and move on, right? Or to say something like what Kyle just said, right? Like, oh, my opinion is so much more valuable than yours in a mocking way, right? Even though I don't think that's a fair characterization of the position being espoused. They're going to clarify a little bit, so I'm going to let them talk and make sure that, I let everything play out. But I just I wanted to talk about this because it's a little bit frustrating to listen to people you respect get on the internet and say things like this. Because if the other side was saying this about similar situations, right, we would be laughing at them and saying that's stupid, it's obviously not my position, you're making shit up, or you're just not even arguing or engaging with the idea at all, right? And like we've been laughing at SJWs and weirdos on the internet for years for doing shit like that. And I think that because it's been so long and because it's been going for so long and all these positions are so ingrained and emotional and stupid that we're just kind of getting frustrated with it and being willing to just sit there and say, nope, that's dumb, I don't want to engage, and move on. And I don't think that that's the right way to approach it.
Because I'm really good with balls. It's like, okay. Thank you for
And
sharing.
hey,
Thank you.
I recognize the slight hypocrisy in that as well, because I'm not a philosopher or university graduate on any of this, but I do endeavor to go in depth and examine the topics I talk about. And at the end of the day, I have never presented myself as anything else than a rando talky person on the internet.
Okay, and that I appreciate Arch saying this because he's recognizing that that is not a position that he should hold when he's talking about dismissing LeBron for being a basketball player, right? Because he's just some rando on the internet. Technically speaking, LeBron is just some rando online or on TV or in a magazine or wherever the hell his opinion is being promoted that day, right? But his counter to the hypocrisy of the statement is that he's never presented himself as anything but that thing. And I think that applies to LeBron as well. I mean, I don't know of any time that LeBron has ever presented himself as anything but just a basketball player / celebrity / actor, right? Who wants his political opinions to be heard because he believes them to be correct. Just the same as anybody else, really. It's just that his get more weight because of his status. It has nothing to do with him thinking they should be weighted more. I mean, everyone who holds a political opinion probably believes their opinion should be weighted more because they believe it's correct, and they probably think they can prove it because that's the nature of politics, right? But I don't think it's his position that because of who he is, his politics should be given more space or more value. I think that that's an unfair counter to the hypocrisy. I think the correct counter to the hypocrisy is technically LeBron is just some rando too, right? And so my opinion should be worth as much as his, right? Which is kind of what he said, but kind of not. So I just want, when we're talking about political discourse, right, it can come from anyone and anywhere, and everyone's opinion on everything is just as valuable or just as valid as anyone else's. It's just that some are wrong and some are right, and you have to do some work to prove one way or the other which side is correct and which side isn't. And I think that is the more important conversation, or the more important aspect that we keep leaving out, or that we're quickly moving away from because of the frustration of dealing with idiots who don't want to engage fairly. Anyways, I'm a big fan of these two, and you should definitely check out their channel if you haven't already. But yeah, I just wanted to highlight this one little frustration I had. So, thanks for listening.